Hey, Bob, Katrina, nice to meet you. And yeah, the Texas boys, Grant Stinchfield and myself down here. It is an event that this is my first NRA convention, to be honest with you. So it looks to be very well populated to me from my perspective, but it also is coming with a bunch of protesters out in front. Talked to a couple of them on my way in to get their perspective as well. And I was kind of struck, guys, by how a lot of misinformation and disinformation. That's going to be the word of the year. I have a feeling that they're suffering under these protests out in front. My understanding also that Robert Francis Beto O'Rourke is also joined that protest outside. But the atmosphere inside is very, very different. Folks here seem to be reveling in their rights and very understanding and very somber about the tragedy that just befell this state of Texas and that the whole country is feeling in Uvalde. But I would say overall the atmosphere is upbeat here, being able to mourn a tragedy, say never again, and also relish our Second Amendment rights and the rights the Constitution affords us.
Yeah, a lot of people were waiting. Wayne Lapierre was supposed to speak a little later. They moved it up a little bit. We know that some people have canceled their appearances there for various reasons, not the least of which, for instance, you have the governor who is down in Uvalde and clearly obligated to be there and involved at that situation. But I think traditionally, Chris, a lot of people do await Wayne Lapierre when events happen that get your attention, that guns are involved, and they wait to hear kind of guidance from him. And to a lot of people, what he has to say will be very important.
A tone setter, I think that's fair to say, Bob. But a lot of the folks in attendance here don't believe the Second Amendment and the right of self-defense. It all factors in with the tragic events in Uvalde. Thus, they can gather, they believe they can walk and chew gum at the same time. And I guess the sentiment that if I was going to characterize it, from whether you're from the conservative side of the equation or from the liberal side of the equation, the one thing everybody seems to agree upon is they don't want this to ever happen again in any school, in any part of this country. And now, where can we come together, both sides of the political factions, and come to a way forward that achieves that goal without sacrificing the rights that most Americans covet?
Yeah, Chris, I know there will be some other speakers, of course, later. Former President Donald Trump won, and I believe Ted Cruz as well. Tell us what else is going to be happening as the day continues.
Well, a lot of folks are just, and I haven't done this yet. I mean, we've been kind of busy, but before I came on with you guys, I was telling our producers, I was like, hey, I want to go check out some of the booths and see what some of the hunting gear, some of the fare. And they said, yeah, it's fine. You got to be on in the next 10 minutes. And I said, oh, great. I'm going to be able to get maybe down this aisle, maybe one aisle, but it's expansive. You wouldn't, if I could convey to you guys just how big and how much stuff is here to see. I think a lot of folks are going to avail themselves of these booths, the various aspects of hunting, of self-defense and firearms, again, that until recent decades haven't been all that controversial, but in the wake of mass shootings that have become, sadly, all too part of our normal here. It is something that has become increasingly more controversial.
What is the venue itself, Chris? And can you describe how many people are there? I don't know if you got an official number, but we talking hundreds, we talking thousands? What's it look like? Well,
again, people are in and out all day long, Bob. The venue is huge, right here in the middle of downtown Houston, and it's a convention center that holds a lot of people, and I mean, if I was going to put a number on it, we'll just say tens of thousands coming through in and out the doors. I mean, since I've been here, I can characterize to be fair, the protests. When I came in earlier I'd say about 2 hours ago, there seemed to be, and this seems to be the case in a lot of these protests, more of a media presence than there seemed to be protesters, more press than protesters. But that may have changed in the 2 hours since I've been inside. But that's the atmosphere. Thousands of people inside in air-conditioned comfort, and maybe between 50 and 100 outside protesting.
Wow, that's fewer than I think many of us might have expected, but I like how you said more media than protesters, at least at this point. But when we spoke with Grant earlier, who has, of course, attended these conventions in the past, I know it's your first one, Chris, he said that he felt that the atmosphere was a bit more subdued on the inside. But again, for a first-timer, what is the energy like there? What's the vibe on the ground?
Yeah, I think it is, as I stated before, Katrina, it's walk and chew gum. A lot of folks very mindful and very sad and in mourning, especially the folks who are native Texans who are here at the convention, about what's happening in Uvalde. You mentioned Governor Greg Abbott thought it was very appropriate not to come here and speak to the NRA convention when his services and the entire office of the governor needed to be devoted to Uvalde and that community of, might I say, mostly Democrats who are in pain, his office committing his time there. But a lot of folks here are partaking in the booths, partaking in some eats that are available that are around here. Subdued, I think that's an apt description. Maybe, again, mindful as an adjective I'd use to describe. Reveling, yes, in our rights and our freedoms and liberties, but also mindful of a tragedy that's not only befallen the state of Texas, we feel it the most here, but it also has befallen the entirety of the country.
Yeah, and I think the mood has affected everybody in this country. I mean, everything from Wall Street to there in Houston. I'm curious with the change in mood. I want to go back. Let's go back a week because I know you're a Texas guy. I lived in San Antonio. I know what that town is like, and that state is like. So I was kind of curious, how have things been going in Texas overall? What's the mood? We've seen a lot of increase in inflation and that sort of thing. And again, folks, just so you know, we're waiting for Wayne Lapierre to come out to speak, but I wanted to kind of get a scene setter, if you will, Chris, for how things are going in Texas.
Well, Texas, economically, they're feeling the pinch, as is the rest of the nation, and it's all relative, right, Bob? I mean, we look at our friends trapped in the People's Republic of California with sky-high gas prices and only getting higher. And of course, the gas prices here in the great state of Texas also well over $4. The economic attitude seems to be, well, I mean, it seems a theme, right? Subdued. A lot of folks worrying over the next shoe to drop on the national level, which will harm the great state of Texas. As you know, the administration, the Biden administration's push for rampant, uncontrolled illegal immigration harms everyday citizens here in the great state of Texas. And talk about being mindful, before this tragedy in Uvalde, Texans felt very much under attack from this administration with their promotion, their encouragement. They're turning individuals in the federal government who are in law enforcement, assisting cartels in the importation of illegal aliens at an unprecedented, record-breaking rate. Again, this is the agenda of the Democrat Party and the current administration. And those who are being harmed, Latino communities that line the U.S.-Mexico border, Democrats largely, many of them begging and pleading for an ear from Washington, D.C., and Joe Biden, his administration, and the Democrat Party giving them the hand, saying, we don't want to hear what you have to say, just sit down, shut up, and take it. That has been the attitude from the federal government, and it's perceived here, and I think reflected in the national polls, too, among Latinos who are now only giving this administration 26% approval rating for Mr. Biden and his people in Washington. So the state of Texas, I think that we would all agree, we Texans are better off than most of the country, especially when you've got a left-wing state government colluding with a left-wing federal government to really crank up the pain on our people. And at least here in the state of Texas, we have a state government that is actually standing up on our people's behalf.
Yeah, and Chris, I'm always amused when they talk about how Latinos, Hispanics are what they're polling. And like they're shocked when they agree with the majority of Americans. Now I married into a Hispanic family, and I know why you're laughing. If you could explain to people for a second, Mr. Salcedo, why that's amusing. It's like you're a completely different community. I mean, these folks are such a huge part of our country and experiencing the same thing that everybody else is.
As you know, Bob, I am known as the liberty-loving Latino, and I set up that moniker so many years ago to basically illustrate the fact that just like the American community writ large, there is a difference of opinion, politically speaking, inside the Latino community. Plenty of Latinos out there love the right of defending themselves with a firearm. Some don't. A lot of Latinos out there love the idea of the Constitution. Some Latinos don't. And it is a debate going on writ large in the United States of America that is reflected in the Latino community. It's also reflected in the black community. There are those who are dedicated to making sure that we're all segmented, that we have blacks, Latinos, Asians, whatever. There are those of us who believe in being united under that Constitution, under the American banner. And so when Latinos look at what's going on around the country and say, wow, you know, things are pretty miserable in this country under left-wing extremism. It's not that far-fetched to look at the Latino community and say, yeah, they all agree with the majority of the rest of the country saying we are headed in the wrong direction.
Right.
The only people, Bob, as you know, who are shocked by this are our friends in the mainstream press who are trying to set up a different narrative.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Sorry. Chris, thanks so much for joining us, and great to meet you. Thanks so much.
Yeah, nice to meet you too, Katrina. See you guys later.
Okay.
Good to see you, Chris.